Anyways, so I got us live up here on Facebook. Let me just start. Why don't you guys just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and a little bit about Pitchbox.
Awesome. I'm Alex Gobstein, co-founder of Pitchbox, and on the line here with us,
Michael Janalis, also co-founder of Pitchbox.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Pitchbox is or who we are, Pitchbox is a link building software. We specialize in link building automation, scaling link building teams for agencies, in-house marketing teams, but do it in a way that kind of maintains that personal touch. So it's kind of scalability, but scaling this proper way of link building and outreach.
Yeah, and just for the record, for anyone watching too, I always go on record saying this, but Pitchbox is by far if you are doing outreach, we've kind of gotten away from it. We can talk about that more a little bit, but if you're doing outreach, it's the only solution. It's really the only solution out there that, to me, is able to handle the needs of any agency trying to do either link building or PR at scale. Nothing even comes close. Yeah, no, I mean, you guys know that. I've told you that a million times before, and that's actually how we're here. Years ago when I was doing a lot more stuff in link building, I kind of stumbled across it, and again, I mean, to me, it's been that way for years. There's some other things that have come up that might be a little bit more cost effective, which I want to talk to you guys too about, kind of your pricing and your strategies. But before we get into that, I mean, you guys used to be agency guys, right? Talk a little bit how kind of the evolution of Pitchbox and how it grew out of your agency, because I think a lot of people, our audience is all agencies, are really interested in building some sort of software, but have always kind of struggled to make it meet, like, how do you spend the time doing it? How did the need arise? And then how did you eventually go from being an agency to cutting off the agency and being full-time software company?
So Alex and I both had two independent SEO agencies, and while our customers were in different categories, I'd say, when we decided to merge into a single shop, we sort of realized that we need to, reduce costs and rely a lot more on automation and streamlining the workflow. So for us, it was just a natural decision to go ahead and build something in-house. We were lucky in the sense that we both come from software engineering backgrounds, so we've always made smaller tools or utilities for ourselves, being able to code. I think we both go back to early 90s. I used to work as a software engineer for many years, starting in 96, 95, 96, and all the way through 2003. I got into affiliate marketing and initially affiliate marketing and e-commerce in around 2003, and then later around 2006 I got into offering client services. So again, for us, it was just a natural thing to go ahead and invest our time and resources in building a tool in-house that we could use to scale our team. A lot of the things we agree on, as far as you, Ryan, and us, our philosophy is sort of looking at a larger process and chunking up the work, making it easier to train new members of your team, making it easier to delegate, making it easier to take your team and break it into smaller groups. Much like if you look at any high output production environment, whether it's even something as simple as a restaurant, or I often use the analogy of maybe a car factory. You don't have a smaller group of people who work on a car, building a car. There's an assembly line, and everyone along the assembly line has a job to do. So when we started looking at creating this software, the main thought was, let's look at the workflow. Let's see what are the main functions and tasks that people have to execute along the way. And that's how we sort of started working on modules and building out all the modules for each step of the way, for each step along the workflow.
And in regards to the dev, were you writing the code then all yourself? I mean, how did you handle the actual technology side of it?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So since we were in the agency business, and we've always, and coming from a software engineering background, being developers ourselves, we always look for ways to automate things. And a lot of those ways involved some type of coding. Running an agency, there's the difference between being being in the business or working on the business, right? So actually spending time coding it ourselves didn't really make sense, and we were lucky enough to have a development team, small development team, but we knew how to, I guess, the right ways. Like how do you communicate to the developers? How do you give them the right message so that they can take what is in your sort of your idea and make it into a software. So I think there's a couple of advantages to our background, being able to actually build this tool. And and to Michael's point, breaking up things into workflow, a lot of what you teach, going back 8 years now or whatever, or maybe even 9 when we actually started developing it, we were actually developing the software specifically in those stages. Like what's the first part, right? Well, the first part is prospecting, right? We're not going to go anywhere until we get our list. So this was our first thing. And then what's the next step? Well, the next thing is just enhance it with something, right? It's going to be, SEO data, whether it's from Moz, Ahrefs, or Majestic, or whatever it is. The next step would be to make sure that you don't have any duplicates, right? So a lot of those processes, that's how we were developing them. And I remember that whiteboard. At the end of that whiteboard, the scariest thing that Michael and I really never worked on was the CRM and the address book. So that was like, we're walking slowly in that direction. And for me personally, I was like, okay, we're going to get the CRM. This is, there's big businesses that were built, CRMs, and we're going to attempt to actually build our own CRM. But we did. It's more like an SEO CRM that we put
and I think that's one of the reasons why I gravitated to your point, was that the way that it's broken up or chunked up, if you will, is very specific to link building, right? I mean, it's prospecting, outreach, follow-ups at a very high level, right? I mean, were you concerned going into it that the market might be too small? I mean, or just were you like, because even now to this day, I mean, and you guys can talk more to this about your strategy, but you guys are still focused mainly on SEO companies, right? In link building specifically as a part of that. I mean, have you found that the market is bigger than that? Was it ever a concern that this is too specialized of a tool? Can you talk a little bit about that process a little bit?
I'd rather be a big fish in a small pond than a tiny fish in a huge pond. Again, for us, we never had the intent of building a product. Really, it just happened organically, where a lot of our colleagues and friends in the link building space, very close friends with Christoph Kemper, who at the time was working on link research tools, for example, right? So, so a lot of our clients and customers and colleagues, we kind of bragged a little bit about what we built, and they wanted to gain access to first maybe just look at reporting and then just to play around with it. And only after we kind of saw that, hey, our workflow, our process seems to match everyone else's, or maybe not everyone else's, but a huge majority of our friends. And maybe, again, we had a sort of a bit of a bias because we were working in this micro niche of large scale link building vendors and shops, right? So we weren't necessarily focusing on like a solo link builder or something at the time. And again, our workflow for people who wanted to scale link building, it was a perfect match. And in fact, that a lot of other companies who also had a homegrown solution, I'm not going to drop any names, but a lot of them have migrated over to us throughout the years, because they just found that maintaining their own systems was no longer cost efficient. And it was just easier to deal with us because we do this for a living now. So yeah, it's, as far as not focusing on other businesses across the board, it was actually an interesting point in our history when I think Product Hunt was just launched at the time. It was, like 5 years ago, Alex, maybe more. Yeah. And someone submitted Pitchbox to this list of top 10 or top 5, whatever, growth hacking tools. Growth hacking was all the rage then, right? So that was like the really popular idea or topic back then. And anyway, so overnight, it was like a holiday weekend. I don't remember, maybe Independence Day or something.
It was Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, whatever. Yeah. So we're both at barbecues, just having fun, and my phone was blowing up because we see, I don't know how many thousands of signups we had that one weekend, because it just sort of blew up on Product Hunt that weekend. The end result of that was absolute horror, because come Monday morning, we had every little startup launching their whatever new vibrating toothbrush on whatever, on one of these Indiegogo or some of the other funding sites. They all wanted to use Pitchbox to launch a product now, which is not what we're built for. We weren't made for startups. We weren't made for amateurs. We weren't made for people who don't know or understand SEO link building. So when they all came rushing, our support guys were going absolutely nuts, and it was just not a good. It was hard for us to kind of deal with that avalanche. So we made a decision to, well, first of all, to shut down anonymous free trials and take the pricing off the website. And we kind of went with this very smart and popular notion, I think, of, the 80-20 rule, or in our case, maybe it was the 90-10 rule, where we said we're going to go ahead and focus on SEO agencies, affiliates, and publishers, people who really need to do link building at scale and know what they're doing. We're a tool for experts, or at least for people who know and understand link building really well. And we're not, we didn't have a training product, or, we do onboarding on the product itself, but we're not going to take someone who is building a startup or is building a Shopify store and teach him how to do link building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just a lot of leads, a lot of trials, and a lot of customers that were wasting our time, and we were really wasting theirs too, I think. So we made that transition, and I think it was the best thing that we've done, Alex.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people, even if in the earlier days, we've taken a stab at providing not just the training on the platform itself, but also helping people with strategy and just helping them understand how it's done and how to do it. And although we've succeeded a number of times, ultimately it was a failure, because these people, they were small businesses, they were startups, they were really busy building their brand, their product, their chasing the next customer. And as you know, link building takes time. It's not something that you could do, take a Monday, do it for 3 hours and be done with it. So ultimately,
not a part-time gig, yeah.
Right. So ultimately, we've showed them that, look, yes, you send a lot of emails today, you're going to have a lot of responses tomorrow. And now you need to engage with these people. You need to build relationships. So if you're, say, even taking 15 hours away a week to do this, that means that you're not going to work 15 hours a week more, because as a startup, you're probably already putting in 80 hours a week. So another 15 is just not possible. So I'm basically taking you away from building a brand, building a product, taking that 15 hours. It's going to catch up to you, right? In 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks. And then you're going to turn around and say, oh my God, this particular part that I've been building is now lacking. It really needs my time. And they jump. And then Pitchbox is just sitting there with hot leads, and they're not responding to it. So it's really not, we're designed, and we believe in scalability, and we'll talk about maybe some of the automation and stuff as well. But these people just, they couldn't handle both things. So this is where we always communicate to people that really it doesn't really matter whether it's SEO, link building, on page, outreach, other things. You have to have someone dedicated and owning it, right? So they have to be involved. Doing things part-time, you're going to get subpar results.
Yeah. The reason why I asked about the market being too small is a selfish question for myself, because my partner, David Krebin, and I think I told you this a while ago, we've been kind of developing something in the background. It's, for lack of a better term for explanation, it's like a Zapier for BigQuery. It basically allows you to drag and drop APIs, use BigQuery for processing, and then report using Looker, Data Studio, whatever you prefer. But the reason why I asked that was because it's applicable to so many different spaces, right? I mean, there's so many different ways that we could take it to market, but we're basically niching all the way down. And I know just from experience that, niching down and focusing on kind of what you just said in a nutshell is focusing on who your core customer is and who your ideal user is and really focusing on how they can get the most out of that product. And then, I mean, so on top of that too, like what I kind of question that came to mind was, I know you guys haven't done too much marketing, right? But you guys have still grown significantly since you guys have launched. I mean, how have you been reaching that core customer?
You're right. We haven't done much marketing, but that's something that's going to probably change this year or next year, where we're going to actually start to, we want to multiply our growth. We're definitely in that position. I'm going to let Michael talk a little bit about ambassadorship and how he's been doing those things. I've tried and I failed at it. He's just good. He's natural. So.
Okay. So thank you, Alex. So this is, at the end of the day, if you know your product market fit and you're focusing on the bigger players on the market, at least initially, in my opinion, it's just one way, it's one channel, it's one strategy to go after. So you could have, we were never, in terms of pricing, we were never a tool like Buffer, where you pay $9 a month and, you don't need a sales team, you don't need onboarding,
10.
You don't need training. What?
It's $10.
Whatever, 9, 10, 15, 20, doesn't matter. So anything under, I would say anything under $100, you don't need a sales team, or you don't need to, really, it's more of a volume game, right? So you need tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of customers and to make some real revenue and, run a company. When it's more of an enterprise play, and there are companies in the SEO space like Conducta, BrightEdge, Searchmetrics, and others, Botify, there are plenty of enterprise examples and players, companies like HubSpot, even Salesforce, right? So we are utilizing more of that model. And I guess the way we originally became a product company, like I was saying, it was just through, we've been around the industry for a long time, and we know a fair amount of I guess veterans in the industry and interesting people. And when we initially let some of them join our list of customers and list of users, they were super enthusiastic and happy to use the product and tell their friends about it. So to answer your question, our growth has been purely attributed to just word of mouth marketing. We are obsessed with offering the best customer service we possibly can. We treat every account, every customer, we never outsource our customer service offshore. Not that there's anything wrong with it, and some companies do a good job at it, but we think that our support guys are all US based, all native English speakers. They're product experts, they're link building experts. So we didn't try to outsource it to other countries and try to train a team over there to save money on it. So it's just through working on making the best product and offering the best customer service we possibly can, and just working with, I guess, reaching out to really influential people, speakers, people who have a lot of exposure in the industry, and getting them on board, and the rest is purely organic growth. The only marketing we've done to date has been more of a branding component, where we show up at conferences, not so to flash our logo, but just to, share drinks, share some beers and meet our customers in person, and, have that human, I guess, add the human element to, let everyone know we're real people. We're not just some faceless software company.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just as an outsider, just seeing what you guys have done, I think you guys have done a tremendous job with building relationships with the right people, and getting them to use the product and then become advocates. And especially too, I mean, positioning yourself in the enterprise. I mean, I would call you guys enterprise, because that's really, how I'm sure you guys make most of your money, and how you want to as well. But in the enterprise space, those relationships are so key, and getting out, and you guys do a great job at conferences as well. I mean, you guys brought me out to HubSpot a couple of years back. You guys had a great booth, and I remember you saying that, like, we're not really here to get signups from the masses, because even then that wasn't your model. Just getting the right people on board. And that's kind of how we're looking at it too, is that if we can just kind of position ourselves because our product will work based off of you. If we can get in with the right agency, we charge per website that they use the software on, right? So if we can just get in with, we'd rather work with one agency that has 100 websites than 100 different websites, meaning 100 different customers, which allows us to do the same thing that you guys are doing, which is, to me, is really focusing on your relationships with your customers. I mean, you guys have done a great job listening to feedback from us, implementing those things, and just pushing it back into the product. You know what I mean? Really for the people who use it the most and who get the most out of it as well. So just from a third party outside point of view, you know, that's how we met. You guys have done a really good job with that as well. So in terms of marketing though, I mean, what do you guys, if you're willing to share, I mean, what you guys have planned? Are you taking more of a mass marketing approach, advertising? Is there anything that you can share with? I know you guys are usually, especially you, Mike, you're usually pretty tight-lipped about things.
Yeah, so I'll say that without any specifics, we have a couple of new products coming out, actually.
New product?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working on a couple of new things, and I think they're going to be very complementary to Pitchbox, but also will stand on their own, you know, just the same. And yeah, we are always open to trying new models and different models for marketing and branding. So, I mean, as far as regular marketing is concerned, we're finally going to try to get our content marketing under control. Very long conversation with Tim at Ahrefs, and you know, I always look at the Ahrefs blog as one of the best examples of content marketing in our industry, in our space. And
Sure.
you know, we're going to try to do you know, as good of a job as we can. Not trying to mimic what they're doing, but you know, we're going to try and share with our audience, I guess, a lot of the data that we have, because ultimately we have this sort of a 30,000 foot view of what's going on in the link building space.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of agencies and publishers and affiliates who do a fair amount of link building. So we'd love to share those insights with the rest of the community and